On November 20th, 2007, BioWare released Mass Effect on the Xbox 360 to moderate success, and it would only take 8 days for people to start talking about how to speedrun it. When it comes to speedrunning games like these, on the surface, they seem pretty simple. Most shooter games have you run from point A to point B while killing enemies to complete an objective. However, speedrunners trying to take on Mass Effect quickly found out that optimizing this game was harder than it looked. Between random equipment drops, the terrible Mako driving, and the luck needed in various combat sections, this game posed an unexpected challenge. This is the entire history of Mass Effect 1 80% speedrunning, and the story of how the community broke the game. I hope you all enjoy today's video. But first, let me tell you about this video's sponsor, Displate. Displates are durable metal posters that are much better than your canvas or paper counterparts. They're also super easy to install, with each one coming with an adhesive leaf and powerful magnet that goes on top of it, letting you decorate how you want without tearing up your walls. With over 200 different licensed designs, a ton of other options from individual artists, and the ability to have your own custom displate made, your choices are endless. I especially love the Halo 3 and Elden Ring Night Rain displates I got, with their clean matte finish being exactly what I wanted. Displate is celebrating Black Friday with the biggest discounts ever, and if you use my discount link in the description or code Dr. Swell at checkout, you can save up to 46% off your purchase. So support me by ordering a displate today, and thanks again to Displate for sponsoring this video. Speed Demos Archive, or SDA for short, was the hub for all things speedrunning at the time, and discussion around games old and new was happening every day. On November 28th, a thread called Mass Effect Speedrun Ideas was created, with people theorizing what a run would look like and the possible barriers to completion. On December 9th, a user by the name of Zagar was the first notable person to claim a completed run, with him stating he got a 359 on the normal difficulty. This was likely using in-game time, as the save file does show time played when viewing it. Mass Effect is a third-person shooter with a ton of RPG elements involved, with the goal of the game to stop the main antagonist Saren from ushering in the return of the Reapers, a sentient machine race set on destroying all life in the galaxy. Playing as Commander Shepard aboard the SSV Normandy, you start the game by investigating a disturbance on Eden Prime with an elite soldier, also known as a Spectre, named Nihilus. The mission is sabotaged by Saren, leaving Shepard to clean things up after Nihilus is killed off. Going through the first world, Eden Prime, is simple enough. It's a straight shot through the mission, with the occasional stop to defeat enemies before getting a cutscene and moving on. There's a bomb defusing section before finishing the planet, but that can be handled quickly. You end up in the Citadel after this, which is basically the game's government hub. Here, you end up gathering evidence against Saren to provide to the Citadel Council, the people who govern this hub and the space around it. You also recruit many of your squad mates at this point, with up to 2 of them being able to join you while adventuring. 2 of these you get from Eden Prime, Kaidan, who's a biotic with telekinetic and tech-based abilities, and Ashley, who's a soldier who focuses on weaponry. The characters you can get on the Citadel are Garrus, who focuses on tech and weapons, Rex, who's skilled in biotics and weapons, and finally Tali, who focuses on tech. There's another character named Liara who joins you during a later part of the story, with her focus being around strong biotics. After talking to the council in the Citadel Tower, you go down to Cora's Den and talk to C-Sec Officer Harkin, which sends you to the medical station where you save the nurse there and run into Garrus. That event leads you back to Cora's Den to fight Fist, and after you escape that area, you have to find Tali, who has the evidence against Saren, and save her from being ripped off from a trade. Once the Citadel Council has the evidence against Saren, they grant you Spectre status and give the go-ahead to chase down some leads to figure out what Saren is up to. The main quest opens up with 3 different planets. These are Noveria, Pharos, and Therum. They can also be done in any order, but they are required to progress the game. Noveria is a cold planet and home to some of the most competitive corporations in the galaxy. Going through some quests at Port Hanshin, you eventually get access to the research facility Peak 15, where Saren's right hand, Matriarch Benezia, has gone. After navigating some of the facility, you find out that the power is out, preventing you from reaching Rift Station. Turning on Peak 15's power involves activating the core, repairing the landlines, and repairing the fuel lines. Of course, you'll be fighting Geth, Krogan, and a bug species called the Rachni, all before taking the tram to Rift Station. In Rift Station's restricted area, You fight Benezia and her team of both Thessari Commandos and Geth. After the fight, you meet Arachni Queen, which you can either save or kill before leaving the planet. Pharos is an Exogeny-sponsored colony going through some rough times with the Geth, and the colony was also separated from Exogeny headquarters. After going to the HQ and discovering Exogeny's hidden research on the colony, Shepard discovers an ancient being known as the Thorian, capable of mind control from the spores throughout the colony, and was used by Saren to further understand the Prothean vision he received on Eden Prime. Pharos ends with you having to fight mind-controlled colonists, and eventually the Thorian and its minions in a lengthy boss fight. Therum is the next planet, with you needing to seek out Liara, who's Benezia's daughter. This is one of the simpler planets, consisting mostly of a Mako drive to the area around the dig site. After fighting your way underground and rescuing a trapped Liara, you fight a Krogan Battlemaster before leaving the planet. Upon completing 2 of the 3 main plot worlds, another required planet called Wymorn is opened up, giving you a 4th location to complete before finishing that part of the story. Wymorn is a pivotal point of the game as you storm a Geth base and learn that Saren's ship is a Reaper by the name of Sovereign, using Saren as a puppet through the power of indoctrination. The mission on Wymorn ends after a boss fight with Saren, blowing up the base and losing one of your squad members. Once you do the main quests related to these 4 planets, you briefly end up back at the Citadel before going to Ilos, a world that houses an experimental mass relay called the Conduit that happens to be a backdoor to the Citadel. This is a shorter planet that has you fighting a ton of Geth in the first section, then doing a Mako drive in the second section before reaching the Conduit. After chasing Saren through the Conduit, you end up fighting him in the Citadel, stopping his plan that we use Sovereign to summon a Reaper army to their location. With the main story route out of the way, let's talk a little bit about Mass Effect's combat system. Combat in Mass Effect has 2 major components, weapons and abilities. Your proficiency in these are determined by the class you select at the beginning of the game. Improving your stats and abilities requires talent points that you get each time you level up. Zagar picked the Soldier class, focusing on weapons damage and character stats. His idea was to use Ashley and Garrus, who had assault rifles, and almost never used the ability wheel. A couple of weeks later, another speedrunner by the name of Ekudet did a practice run and claimed a time of 2 hours and 32 minutes on casual mode. It wasn't recorded like the previous run, so this seemed like another person making a claim without anything to back it up. In the early days of speedrunning and gaming challenges in general, it was common for people to claim a record or achievement without any video proof. You could pretty much say whatever you want as long as it wasn't too outlandish, and people would be like, "Wow, that's so cool, man." Back to what Ekudet claimed in the Mass Effect thread, he was a reputable speedrunner by that point and held world records in games like Silent Hill, so you know if he was talking about a run he did, it was legit. Ekudet believed that under 2 hours and 15 minutes was possible with the same difficulty settings, but he wasn't planning on doing any other attempts, so it would be up to someone else to push the game further. Over the next several months, people would theorize other routes and find some small glitches, but it didn't seem like the game was going anywhere, and naturally, interest in the run began to wane. However, the game was about to get a boost of activity thanks to Mass Effect getting ported to the PC in late 2008. Some discussion did happen upon release, but things didn't start picking up until 2010, when a user by the name of Timmy would work on his segmented run. The good news here is he had video proof for the most part, but for some reason part 14 of his run was missing, so it wasn't exactly complete. It wouldn't be until March of 2011 when another runner by the name of the Great Cortez did a segmented run, also uploading it to YouTube. Combining all the segments and timing up to the last hit on the final boss, Cortez got an approximate time of 2 hours, 31 minutes, and 41 seconds on casual difficulty. Cortez picked the Adept class at the beginning of the game, giving him access to biotic abilities. Even though this was the case, most combat used assault rifles, which can deal a ton of damage quickly. Advanced speedrunning strats can be seen right from the beginning when Cortez first got control of Shepard. He throws and activates grenades at his feet to put him into combat mode. This lets him combat sprint, saving a ton of time by running at the speed of sound. On Eden Prime, Cortez did his best to run through and skip as many enemies as he could. However, there are some sections where you have to kill all nearby enemies to progress, such as the train right before the bomb segment. After reaching the Citadel, Cortez goes through the main story and grabs both Garrus and Tali as you normally would, but skips Rex right before leaving. This is actually intended, and it's useful for saving a bit of time on Wymorn since you don't get his extra cutscene. Cortez's planet route was Pharos, Novaria, Wymorn, and Therum. His Pharos was okay, with him rushing through dialogue and only killing enemies required to progress. The same idea carried over to the Colonist and Thorian fights, just looking to get through as fast as he can. To beat the Thorian, you have to take out each of its nodes throughout the underground complex. There are 5 nodes, each protected by a bunch of Thorian creepers and Asari clones. Creepers have strong attacks that'll bypass your shields and poison you, depleting your health over time. Another big thing to note is that the nodes have damage resistance based on the amount of creepers alive in the immediate area. The more creepers you kill from that specific group, the more damage you deal to the node. It took Cortez a while to get through the fight, and he had some close calls when the creepers would gang up on him. On Novaria, he was able to quickly get through Port Hanshin by turning in the Hanard to Oneleus for smuggling weapon mods, getting the Garage Pass, and opening the way to Peak 15. Similar to Pharos, Cortez pushed through the facility using his assault rifles and biotics, and when he got to the Rift Station, he ran through the restricted maintenance area straight to the Benezia fight. Benezia is separated into 4 short phases where she brings in Asari and Geth reinforcements after you defeat each wave. After getting through a few of these waves, you get a cutscene and have to fight more enemies along with Benezia herself. The main danger of this fight is getting knocked down by a commando or Benezia, taking you about 5 seconds to recover when you're hit. You're not immune to damage in this state, so you can straight up get ragdolled and gunned down if you're unlucky. Cortez had a decent fight, getting through each wave without much trouble. He did get knocked down during the final wave, but that was the only thing that went wrong. As for the Rachni Queen after the fight, he chose to save her, as it's about 10 seconds faster to save compared to killing. Next up was Wymorn, with the first half simply being a Mako section with the need to unlock a couple gates on the way to the Solarian camp. Once getting to the camp, this is where you'd normally have that confrontation with Rex, but since he's not in the party, that cutscene never happens. The second half where you storm the base is straightforward until you go and arm the nuke. There's a choice to either go up to the AA tower and disable the gun, or go back and fend off the Geth that are dropping in around the nuke. Cortez picks the option to go back where the nuke is, fighting off a bunch of Geth around the site. Whatever your choice is though, you still have to fight Saren. The Saren fight is a simple one, with him flying around and trying to shoot you. The only real challenge to this fight is not missing any of your shots. Cortez was able to do just that, beating Saren in about 25 seconds. The last planet of the 4 is Therum, and again it's mostly a Mako drive with a few stops to open some gates. The only thing is near the end of the driving area is a big set of rocks designed to keep you from using the Mako right before the dig site. If you played Mass Effect, then you already know this roadblock does not do a good job of keeping the Mako out. Getting through it lets you deal with the Geth right before going underground, trivializing that section. The Krogan Battlemaster fight has him and a couple of Geth troops in an arena, which doesn't sound that bad, but the Krogan can knock you down with his biotics and then rush you with his shotgun right after. He deals a ton of damage, so one wrong move and it's game over. Cortez got dangerously low on health after getting knocked down, but he turned the fight around and quickly finished off all the enemies. Once you get Liara in the party, you start getting your cutscenes after each of the planet's missions, so doing that planet last saves quite a bit of time. After the Normandy gets impounded, it's time for Citadel 2. Cortez uses this to pick up a new assault rifle, increasing his damage by over 100 points. Next up after getting the Normandy back was Ilos, a planet that takes a similar amount of time to complete as Eden Prime and is very straightforward. On the last Citadel visit, Cortez was able to deal with the onslaught of Geth on the way to the final boss, but he came very close to dying a couple of times. When he finally got to Saren, he didn't have enough Paragon or Renegade points to skip the fight, so he had to spend about 30 seconds fighting him before getting to the last boss. Paragon and Renegade are a measurement of the moral choices you can make in Mass Effect, with Paragon being good and Renegade not so much.
I've had enough of your snide insinuations.
You son of a—
Getting enough of these points, one way or the other, unlocks unique dialogue choices that impact the outcome of a conversation. In this case, having enough points would let you convince Saren to shoot himself, skipping that phase of the fight. Final Saren isn't exactly a hard fight, it's just really annoying. Like the Geth Stalkers, He jumps around like crazy and it can be pretty hard to hit him. He also has a couple different attacks, one which will almost instantly overheat your weapon if you fire after getting hit. The good thing is that Saren isn't immune to lift, so using that can keep him from avoiding damage for a short amount of time. Cortez had a bit of trouble following Saren around, especially near the end of the fight where he was close to dead, but he just kept jumping for about 25 seconds before Cortez finally did enough damage to kill him. The run was pretty decent overall. Cortez didn't have any deaths and he had some decent strategies to get through each part of the game. However, there were some things that could be improved. While he did focus on damage output by putting talent points into assault rifles and Spectre training, there were some points left on the table in either weird allocations early on, or simply not using extra points towards the end of the run. Cortez also had a lot of close calls, nearly dying in several of the game's boss fights. Between a little bit of bad luck and some suboptimal menuing, there was plenty of time for him to save. Regardless, there was finally a complete run of Mass Effect available to watch, and with that, a starting point for the community to build from. Back on SDA, while Cortez was working on his run, a user by the name of Smilge would share something that caught the attention of a runner of the New Game Plus category who went by your name here. Name showed up in the Mass Effect threads back in 2009, working on a route for the New Game Plus category. She started her run on Xbox 360 to start, but after getting a new computer, Name would take this run to the PC version in July of 2009, and the very next month, she'd discover something really weird.
Not in the middle of—
The clip skips the elevator scene at the end of the walkway and sends you right down to the bottom with the mining laser. This would save a lot of time, but the problem was that Name had a lot of trouble reproducing the trick. The method she was using involved putting Shepard's weapon away during combat, then by leveraging some common frame rate drops that would happen, Name could clip through a railing and get out of bounds. Since it took too long to do and it was only a small time save, she didn't pursue anything further with the glitch, and no new discoveries were made until Smilge's post in March of 2011. Smilge showed off a way to clip out of bounds in the Citadel's Presidium by simply walking and getting on the ledge of the walkway. He eventually dropped down and was running downwards through the map, passing rooms as he went. To help navigate this area, you can save and reload to get the game to show the rooms again. Smilge ended up down in Cora's Den, just above the club's main area. From there, you can get to Fist's back room, which isn't usually accessible at this point. In theory, if you get back in bounds or hit some cutscene trigger, you could start the Fist fight, which you bring a gun to. Oh my god, after years of playing this game, I just now realized Shepard brings a gun to a Fist fight. Unfortunately, neither Smilge, Name, or anyone else could start the fight with Fist. Name did teleport into the room to see what would happen if you fought Fist and killed him. This lets you skip both Garrus and Rex entirely, and as long as it didn't break things later on, it would be another big time save waiting to happen once it was solved. Name was putting a lot of effort into the game when it looked like things weren't active, but when she tried to work on her segmented runs over the last few years, she kept finding a bunch of small time saves she missed in her segmented attempts, and as a result, wanted to start over and improve a previous segment. This became overwhelming, and with school consistently getting in the way of her attempts, she never finished a segmented run. So clearly the only solution was for her to casually drop a run of Mass Effect done in a single sitting. On March 22nd of 2012, Name finished the first single segment run of Mass Effect with a time of 2 hours, 12 minutes, and 50 seconds. Name started off with the depth like Cortez did, and her run looked like it used similar strats during the first 30 minutes. However, it quickly became clear that Name's movement and fights were a lot cleaner than Cortez's. By focusing specifically on pistols, the throw ability, and Spectre training, Name was able to keep her damage output high. The pistol, combined with the marksman skill, took down enemies fast. The pistol is ridiculously powerful in this game. Even with the starting Kessler 1 model, All you need is to put some damage mods on it, and it'll take you through most of the run. Name also made the use of several weapon and ammo upgrades that she picked up along the way. There's several different types of these in the game, but the important ones Name wanted to see were heat sinks to reduce heat generated per shot, then anti-personnel and anti-synthetic rounds for targeted damage increases. There's other ones like toxic rounds that help by dealing additional damage over time. Normally, you'd need to shop for an upgraded pistol towards the back part of the game, but thanks to a locker decryption conveniently on the way to the end of Eormanric, Name is able to upgrade her pistol to a Kessler 5. This is only a 25 damage per shot increase, but it definitely adds up when you're dumping tons of rounds into your enemies. There was also a trick where Name could get back into the Mako well before Cortez on Eormanric, saving at least 20 seconds from that alone. For example, by parking close to the wall where you have to open the gate to the next area, you can just get back into the Mako from the upper platform when you come back around. Name also took the path to the AA tower instead of going back to the nuke, trading off some experience gained to finish the planet sooner. Name's Eormanric came out 2 minutes faster than Cortez's, and is just one of several optimizations she made. Name was also able to get enough Paragon points for the Saren skip, saving even more time by going straight to the final boss. Another huge thing Name did was find a way to optimize and speed through the game's dialogue. By editing the game's bioinput INI file, Name bound dialogue progression to the mouse wheel, letting her go through conversations at lightning speed and establishing a common practice for the game moving forward. This run was really good, and without any new discoveries, improvements would have to come from better luck in boss fights. However, in many of these world record history videos, new discoveries and strategies tend to pop up when a community needs them to, and Mass Effect is no exception.
Wait! Don't kill me, I surrender!
Starting in August, Name began posting some game-changing discoveries in the SDA Mass Effect thread, starting with the way to kill Fist from Out of Bounds in New Game Plus, putting her back in bounds for the cutscene. This was cool and had huge implications for the run, but it wasn't anything compared to what Name shared next. Over the course of the next few months, she would post video after video, with all of them showing that she completely broke the game. Name had finally mastered the Out of Bounds tech that eluded the community for so long. It's not exactly known how this works from a technical standpoint, but it all stems from being able to crouch. If you save the game while crouched and reload, the game will start with you standing up. Normally the game won't let you save in a spot where it can't load you back in, like crouching against a wall, but if you're on PC and spam the quick save button, it's possible for the game to find a safe location to load back in. Sometimes, that safe location just happens to be out of bounds. Using this new method of crouching, quick saving, and loading, Name was able to find 10 different sequence breaks throughout the game. She used these to do a couple of New Game Plus runs that were well ahead of what she was able to do previously, and not long after, she started working on the New Game category. On December 30th of 2012, Name got a 1 hour, 44 minute, and 9 second run, beating her previous time by just under 29 minutes. The major changes start with the Citadel, with Name now being able to go out of bounds from Citadel Tower all the way down to Cora's Den to kill Fist. This skips talking to Harkin at Cora's Den and Garrus at the med station, taking you right to the point where you help Tally and get the evidence against Saren. Another out of bounds was incorporated in the Presidium, where you can drop down way below the map and fall into the Normandy. Developers conveniently left an instance of the Normandy below the Citadel map, making this huge time save possible. For this run, Name actually changed her planet route due to the new glitches, now starting with Novaria. In Port Hanshin, Name clipped into the garage, skipping everything in that first area. Once she got to Peak 15 into the facility core, she did another out of bounds clip to go straight to the Rift Station tram, skipping the need to detour and have the power turn back on. There was also one more out of bounds Name was able to do right after the Rift Station security checkpoint, going straight to Benezia from there. Pharos was next, and with it came the biggest skip ever discovered in Mass Effect to this day. Normally, you have to unlock the Skyway, drive over to the Exogeny headquarters, and complete that section before coming back and fighting the Thorian. By crouching next to the box that covers the stairs to the Thorian, then doing a save load, you just go through the collision and into the stairs. Since the game doesn't check to see if you progress through the Pharos quest, It just lets you continue through all the upcoming triggers, advancing the quest up to that point. This is why Noveria had to be first, because if Name went straight into the Thorian fight with only the levels gained from Eden Prime and the Citadel, she'd get destroyed fast. Name also found a couple of other skips on Wymorn. One of these was the drawbridge that opens after the Beacon and Sovereign scenes. When you do the out of bounds through the bridge, the floor collision is still there even though the bridge is not, so you can just walk over to the other side and clip back in bounds. For the last clip, if you decide to go back and arm the nuke, you can go out of bounds and almost instantly be back at the water arena. What's even better is that the enemies are loaded in, but the trigger to activate them isn't hit, so you can just mow down the enemies before the Saren boss fight. Name also found a way to skip the Normandy impoundment before Ilos. Normally you can't get back into the ship after getting off during this section, but if you out of bounds and drop back into the Normandy, you can just use the galaxy map and head to Ilos right away. The last out of bounds that Name found was on the Citadel 3 segment before the final Saren fights. At the very beginning, you can clip out and skip almost the entire outside section before the final boss. Combat-wise, the run was mostly the same with a huge focus on biotic abilities and pistols, but a few things had to be changed overall to prevent any time loss. With many parts of the run now being skipped, the amount of Paragon and Renegade points you can earn drops immensely. For example, runs would save all the colonists on Pharos to get a whopping 32 Paragon points, but now the game gives you 32 Renegade points instead. In order to skip the last Saren fight, you need 9 talent points in Charm or Intimidate, and to unlock that, you need a certain amount of Paragon or Renegade points. Name set up her character profile as Ruthless, giving her extra Renegade points to start off with. This, combined with killing the Rachni Queen and other Renegade points naturally gained in the run, let her continue skipping the Citadel Saren fight. Outside of the new glitches and reroutes, combat was very similar to what you'd expect, and Name did a pretty good job at that. Still, she had some mishaps with the Benezia fight, taking longer than usual to do each phase. She also had a softlock on Wymorn at the nuke site, having to reload and losing about 40 seconds. It wasn't perfect, but the run was far ahead of anything else that had been done at that time. People back on SDA were excited about this new era of Mass Effect speedrunning, and new records were just on the horizon. 6 months after this, a runner by the name of Wymorn, who was also working on the 80% category, got a time of 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 8 seconds on May 19th of 2013. The first thing to call out is the way that runs were timed from here on. The community decided that runs would be timed from the moment you gain control of Shepard on the Normandy, since there's a long intro cutscene with no inputs. Overall, Wymorn had a strong start to his run, his Benezia fight being faster than Name's, getting less knockdowns and quicker kills in general. The Thorian fight was about the same, since Wymorn wasn't killing the creepers before attacking the nodes. The biggest time save Wymorn had over Name was in Wymorn. Not getting softlocked after the out of bounds before the nuke was one of the main reasons he was so far ahead in his record. Things would slow down again after this record as Wymorn moved on to other games, and while Name was still contributing with new glitches and route updates, these were for categories like New Game Plus and 100%. In February of 2014, activity in the 80% category would pick up again when someone by the name of LettersWords posted in the Mass Effect SDA thread, asking Name about some strategies around the 80% run. Letters already had experience with Mass Effect 1 thanks to a trilogy run he did back in December of 2013, with his ME1 run coming in at just over 2 hours. In March, Letters already brought down the time to a 1:43:37, less than 30 seconds behind the record. He was on the grind, and on April 9th, he had a run that was on a pretty good pace going into the back half of the game. Letters was 47 seconds ahead before the final boss, and all he needed was good RNG to get the 142.
Oh my god.
A tied world record was the last thing that Letters expected, and honestly, who could blame him? Thankfully, he didn't have to sit on that for long, because on April 17th, Letters had another chance at the record. His early game all the way up to Noveria was pretty good, beating his best ever Eden Prime and Citadel 1 times, and saving a good chunk of time after beating Benezia. He did lose 17 seconds due to some issues in the Pharos fight, and it wasn't until Theorem where he'd start to recover. By the time Letters finished Ilos, he was 55 seconds ahead. All he had left after the Citadel 3 clip was Saren, and things would go a little bit different this time.
Oh my god.
Letters skipped the 142 and went straight to the 141. He absolutely couldn't believe it. This wasn't just a good time, it was a great time with not much left to save for the current route. His luck in the first half of the run wasn't great, getting bad weapon and ammo drops. However, things came together after he got a Stiletto 4 pistol and he put armor-piercing rounds on it during Ilos, letting him melt the upcoming synthetic enemies. This carried him through the end of the game, where he was able to use a new strategy he implemented at the start of the run. Instead of using the Adept class that runners before him used, he picked the Vanguard class, which had one notable advantage. Remember, Saren isn't immune to lift, so Letters used a mix of lift, warp, and throw to briefly stunlock the boss while unloading pistol shots into him. This usually isn't enough because Saren recovers quickly from these effects and starts jumping around. This is where Vanguard shines. By using the ability Assault Training, you can reset your cooldowns and immediately ability combo into another stun lock. Letters executed this very well, beating his old best Sovereign fight and securing the record. After this, Letters moved on to New Game Plus and would work on that while the 80% record settled for a bit. I don't know if you all are noticing a pattern here, but something common in speedrunning and what you'll see throughout the video is that bursts of activity tend to happen when a new glitch or exploit is found. Easy time save to push down a category can be very enticing for top runners, especially when a previous route has hit its full potential. Grinding for better weapon drops or boss fight RNG can be demoralizing and kill a record progression, but new tricks can breathe life into runs like these, and that's exactly what happened in February of 2015. After doing a random run on stream, Letters started messing with the glitch Name was working on at the time. By using the mouse wheel weapon switching, Letters found that you can delay cutscenes with dialogue options. Name found you could use this to skip Ashley on Eden Prime, weapon swapping until you hit the next cutscene trigger. Letters would take this one step further. By doing the delay, quick saving, and loading, you can bypass these cutscenes entirely. This can be done in scenes like at the start of Pharos and Novaria, but more importantly, this can be done in the post-mission Liara cutscenes after you get her in the party, meaning now there's no reason runners couldn't have a route that did Theorem first. Rerouting started almost immediately, with Letters noticing that level ups were very similar and the Renegade route let him reach the points he needed by the end of the game. So after 3 weeks of routing and preparation, Letters was back and doing 80% runs, and on March 5th, he broke the 140 barrier with a new route. Letters knew that there was still a ton of time to save. In fact, he thought a low 138 was definitely possible. So over the next 2.5 weeks he kept working on the run, and he improved the record again, and again, and again. On March 27th, Letters finished his month-long grind with a 138.25. His run overall was really good, with time loss only coming from not having a perfect Venezia fight, and a lot of minor mistakes in Vermeer adding up. Realistically, Letters only had about a minute of time save he could squeeze out of this route. Satisfied with this run, he would once again move on from the category. After Letters got that record, the 80% category would not see much activity, but the Mass Effect speedrunning community was still going strong. Runs of New Game Plus kept things alive, and eventually the Discord server for the scene was created in September of 2016, finally moving away from SDA forums and Skype chats. For a while, the Discord was a fun place for runners to share how ridiculous Mako driving was in Mass Effect 1, but when it came to the 80% progression, it wouldn't be until October of 2017 where things started to pick up again. Letters was messing around with some of the collision detection tools built into the game's console commands, and accidentally found a way to get out of bounds near the beginning of Eden Prime. By quick save clipping at a wall near the point where Jenkins dies and moving over the terrain, you can come out on the other side of the hill near the dock area. This can save up to 1 minute and 30 seconds if done optimally, and was huge enough by itself to bring life back into the 80% run. At this point, Ilos was the only section of the run that didn't have skips now that Eden Prime was just broken, so it was natural for Letters to go working on a skip that long eluded the community. In February of 2008, a glitch hunter by the name of Evil Kamaru found a way to get on top of a box in Ilos by using lift, walking under the box, and letting it fall on top of you. By chaining another lift and singularity after getting on the box, you could get out of bounds in the upper area of Ilos. The problem with this is that the glitch required careful setup, and up until this point, wasn't viable in a real-time setting. Letters was about to change that. By killing off the nearby Geth and using a box near the beginning of the ruins area, Letters was able to use the singularity to bring the box up near an elevated platform, letting him get out of bounds from there. This appeared to be only viable in New Game Plus, but Letters quickly found a way to get this going in any percent runs. By getting Liara to the point where she learns Master Singularity, you can get enough pull towards the platform in the any percent category. This can be achieved by turning off the auto level up before bringing Liara into the party and manually maxing out Master Singularity. This was a complete game changer, and combined with the Eden Prime skip, there was potential for minutes to come off the run. In January of 2018, Letters was back to the any percent grind, but runs were not going to be easy. First of all, he had to do another planet reroute. Due to Eden Prime skip, you get about 200 less experience because of less encounters. This creates a problem for early Theorem because you won't have advanced lift or throw for the Krogan Battlemaster fight. So Noveria was now first and Pharaoh second, similar to Letters' record in 2014, but now Theorem was third and Vermeer was last. During his grind, Letters kept having runs die early on in Noveria, but Letters would catch a break a few days after that.
Alright, well, we're making it past the fight, at least.
Finally, a run past Noveria and a chance to show off the new Ilos skip, but things can go pretty bad here if you didn't play safe. The nearby Geth can easily destroy the box, so they have to be taken care of first. Liara can also use Singularity early, losing you a ton of time and possibly moving the box. A funny thing about Letters' runs around this time is that he recently got a PC with an AMD processor, and Mass Effect's textures don't work well with it, resulting in various character textures turning into black, boxy messes. Despite this issue, Letters doesn't seem to have a problem doing runs, and he was able to do the Ilos glitch here with ease. He would get this run to the final fight, and like many times before, he juggled Saren masterfully. Letters got a 1:37.20 for his final time, a new record, but slightly disappointing. Letters didn't get much extra time save on top of Eden Prime skip, having a roller coaster of time gain and loss up until the end of the game. He knew the run could be improved, but getting a good time was gonna be rough. At this point, he'd need a good weapon and ammo drops, along with good boss fights and skips to get to his goal. Letters had an initial goal of 136, but he kept getting runs that were on pace for 135. The problem was that each run kept dying to something else, and luck was not in his favor. So Letters decided it was time for some changes. To ensure a consistent amount of XP and extra credits early on, Letters would do all of Rift Station in bounds, which is comparable to the amount of time it takes to do the out of bounds. The next thing was to get consistency with damage output later in the run, and Letters had a clever way to make this happen. There's a weapons vendor on Pharos that can sell a Stiletto 4 if you're lucky. By the time you're done with the Thorian fight, you could sell most of your equipment and have enough credits to buy one. The only issue was getting it to show up in the shop. There's a chance that it will show based on your level, but it's not guaranteed. Thankfully, you can quick save before the vendor and simply reload until you get the weapon. This wastes about 10 seconds if done optimally, but it's well worth the insane 177 damage you can get. This also removes the need to loot weapons on Theorem and Vermeer, saving even more time outside of combat. With all of these things in mind, Letters was grinding for his goal now more than ever. 135 seemed to be in reach, but Ilos skip kept killing anything that came close. Going into that March, the last 3 runs that reached Ilos died, 2 of which were on the same day. Letters wasn't giving up though, and it wasn't long before he had a run where he was playing out of his mind.
We got it. We got it. It's over. This game. I'm done with this category. Forever. Thank fucking God.
On March 4th, 2018, Letters got a 1 hour, 35 minute, and 46 second time, saving nearly a minute and 40 seconds over his last run. After Letters got his 135, he and several others thought the 80% category was buried 6 feet under, and honestly, they were right. That is for the next 7 months. At the very beginning of October, a user by the name of Orange Saya was doing a casual playthrough of Mass Effect when he found a glitch with one of the Citadel Council scenes during the first visit. Somehow, he was able to interrupt the cutscene, move around, and even use the Citadel transit system while dialogue was still going. Letters quickly looked into this and found that if you push interact and the map menu keys at the same time, you can interrupt conversation prompts. This wasn't useful in too many places, but if you did it after you activated the Spectre induction scene, it would let you access all the missions you normally get afterwards. Letters theorized this new trick could save up to a few minutes if done correctly, meaning a new record had to be on the horizon. Unfortunately, Letters was pretty burned out on grinding Mass Effect 1 around the time Spectre Skip was found, so another runner would have to step up to the plate. Around that time, Mass Effect speedrunning was picking up in popularity overseas in countries like France and Russia. And in January of 2019, a French runner by the name of Nexus was quickly moving up the game's 80% leaderboard. By February, he already got a 137 and was looking into implementing the new Spectre skip into runs. On February 21st of 2019, Nexus was able to get a new record with a time of 1 hour, 34 minutes, and 55 seconds, nearly a minute faster than Letters' run. Around this time, Nexus was also competing with a Russian speedrunner by the name of Lunchy, seeing who could get the record first or improve their time the most. They were going back and forth for a while on their PBs, but it was Nexus who got the record first. Lunchy knew there was a lot of time that could be saved from the new glitches, so he would step up his game and start pushing the time down. Starting on February 27th, Lunchy went on an absolute tear with Mass Effect 80%. He didn't improve the record just once, not even twice, but 3 times over the course of a 5-day period. By March 3rd, he got a 133.51, all with the new Spectre skip and getting decent RNG. Nexus ended up slowing down on his grind due to school at that time, and Lunchy moved to New Game Plus for a bit until 2020. In February of that year, he got a new record with a 133.03, and that August, he would do it again with a 132.51, though the video no longer exists today. For the rest of the year, things would settle down due to the lack of discoveries, but in January of 2021, there would be another big shakeup in the community. Some glitch hunters from the Knights of the Old Republic speedrunning Discord would start messing around with Mass Effect 1. These were Hotshot and Lufex, legendary coder glitch hunters known for completely breaking that game. Hotshot ended up finding a glitch that would save a bit of time in the run, but Lufex figured out something that would completely change the landscape of Mass Effect 1 speedrunning. The Mako is infamous for how glitchy and unwieldy it is, with people all over saying that it nearly ruins the game. But imagine if you could use it to your advantage. Lufex found that if you downed one of your party members and got into the Mako as soon as they revived, the Mako would flip out and launch into the sky. At first glance, this looks highly uncontrollable, but by quick saving and loading, you can reset the Mako to its default state, but in the same position where you left it. This has some very interesting uses, with one of them letting you go out of bounds in different areas. The most important one of these was Ilos. By doing the Mako glitch, you can clip through the closed door that Saren goes through at the beginning of the planet. This saves an insane amount of time, but the trick is highly inconsistent, even more so than the Ilos elevator skip. Still, things were getting exciting for the Mass Effect community in general. The Legendary Edition of the trilogy was just announced, and more runners were starting to get into the game. One of these people was MikeWave. Mike did a lot of modern Resident Evil speedrunning before getting into Mass Effect 1, and he was quick to start getting competitive times. He already got a mid 134 on his 5th completed run, and quickly realized there was a lot more time to save. Up to this point, the game wasn't that optimized in terms of movement, combat, and getting fast skips, so Mike's goal was to get a run which did all that. Not long after, he had a run that was on an insane pace going into Ilos, and Mike only needed to play well for the next 17 minutes.
Oh my god, it happened again!
Mike was constantly having problems with the PC release of Mass Effect 1. Between random crashes at the end of the game, and a glitch that would reset your character to a default level 1 Shepard during the cutscene where you go to Ilos, Mike had a steep hill to climb. Mike kept trying to figure out what was wrong, but neither he or anyone else could figure out what was happening. Mike ultimately decided to do a fresh install of the game, so he was hoping that would alleviate the John Shepard bug that plagued him over the last month. In late March of 2021, Mike was still working on runs, and he had one that had a good start. His Eden Prime was very clean, and so was his Citadel 1, doing excellent with his combat and getting quick kills on what is usually an RNG-heavy assassin fight. Mike also got the Spectre skip very quick, putting him 37 seconds ahead going into Novaria. Despite a slight hiccup in the Port Hanshin garage, he quickly got to the Benezia fight after, even grabbing a heat sink in Chemical Rounds 3 on the way. Mike's Benezia fight was insanely good, ending each wave shortly after it started. Going into Pharos, he was 54 seconds ahead with a possible 30-second time save on the Thorian. Going in with the upgraded pistol, Mike absolutely crushes the fight, beating his best ever time by about 11 seconds, putting him 135 ahead of his PB. The only thing that went wrong here was he barely didn't have enough money to buy the Stiletto 4 from Ledra and had to sell his Chem Rounds upgrade to afford it. Mike's theorem went well, and his first half of Eormanric had a lot of free time saved due to some issues in his last PB. By the time he was about to storm the base, he was over 2 minutes ahead. He had another 30 seconds to save as well in the last section before finishing Eormanric, and of course, he was able to get that too. Now, after the Citadel 2 skip, this was the moment of truth. Mike took some extra precaution to save, quit, and relaunch the game, even though it lost him around 20 seconds. All he could do now is hope that he got through.
Now we have this part to do, boys. This part's hard. Yeah, we're good. Nice.
He made it through the scene without a character reset. Now he just had to do the Ilos elevator.
Alright, good. Nice! Yes! Let's go! Let's go!
The elevator skip was a piece of cake, and all he needed to do was finish Ilos and beat Saren. His fight right after the skip wasn't the best, but because of how great the skip was, Mike was almost 3 minutes ahead and ready for the final boss. On March 27th of 2021, Mike didn't just set a new record, he absolutely destroyed it with a 131.44. After tons of attempts and record pace runs lost, he finally got a run that stuck, and it felt like this one would stand for a while. Who am I kidding? I can't fool you all. This game is about to get even more busted. Remember that Mako glitch I was talking about that no one could do? Well, Letters found that the Hanar merchant on Novaria can sell high explosive grenade mods, which gives grenades enough power to kill your teammates, and it only sets you back 700 credits. With a proper setup, this makes the Mako glitch possible in new game. In June of 2021, Letters would actually go through the 80% route with the Mako glitch, and it would lead him to doing his first run in years. It wasn't a world record or anything, but it was the first run with this new glitch. This would pave the way for others to try the new setup, including a newer runner by the name of Sanjan. Sanjan already had experience running games like Octopath Traveler and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and wanted to try her hand with Mass Effect since it was right up her alley. That August, only after a few days of being active in the Discord, Sanjan started completing 80% runs and was quickly improving her time. She was even using the new Mako glitch, which was still unreliable and could kill runs right before the end. By the middle of September, Sanjan had already got a 133, and she was well on her way to get the record. And while this was happening, Lufex was at it again, continuing his work on breaking the game. In August, Lufex found a way to skip the inner barrier before the Prothean VI conversation leading to the Ilos Trench run. In September, he found a way to get above the map during the barrier skip, giving runners a straight shot into the conduit from there. Not having to talk to the Prothean VI was huge time save, and Sanjan decided to implement it in her attempts. On September 29th of 2021, she got a run that was on a pretty good pace. She had a gold split on Novaria thanks to an insane Benezia fight, and her Pharos was okay, but Sanjan did have a weird equip screen glitch after the Thorian fight that lost a good chunk of time. She made this up with great Theorem and Vermeer splits, ending up a minute and 20 seconds ahead before heading to Ilos. All Sanjan had to do now was get the gate skip and then do the new barrier skip right after. This was much easier said than done, as the Mako can fly in random directions, not cooperating, and wasting a ton of time.
Yeah, but it's not like I have a choice though. I have to risk it. I don't have a choice. Alright. Well, let's see how much time I lose on this, but this is actually a time save.
Sanjan was able to get both skips, and while overall this was a bit slow, she came out of Ilos still very much ahead. As long as Saren didn't cause problems, a new record would be easy money.
Yes! Let's fucking go!
On September 29th of 2021, Sanjan finished this run with a 1:31.29, just 15 seconds faster than Mike's run without the Mako glitch. This showed that while the new glitch was inconsistent, it was well worth going for if you wanted a top time. Sanjan wasn't done either, because in October, she would improve her time on 3 separate occasions, getting a 1:29.42, making this run the first sub 130 in Mass Effect history. Overall, the run was great outside a few minor mistakes. Sanjan even got a decent Ilos, despite getting the slower barrier skip that loses a minute compared to the optimal one. With the time that she was satisfied with, Sanjan moved on to other categories, and the 80% run would see a dip in activity until January of 2022. Lufex would come back again with even more discoveries using the Mako glitch, and the most impactful one of these was a way to reach the Rift Station tram without even going into Peak 15. This involved a Mako glitch that had a much higher failure rate, but since this could save minutes of time, it couldn't be ignored. MikeWave was getting back into the game at this point, and he suggested in the Discord that due to the run-killing nature and inconsistency of the Mako glitch, there should be a separate category for it. Pretty much everyone was on board with this, and as a result, there would be the 80% category and the 80% no Mako glitch category. Going forward, I'll be talking about 80% NMG for the record progression, outside of a few notes for the Mako glitch run. At this point, both Sanjan and Mike were trying to push their NMG times down, and by the end of January, Sanjan was able to get a 1:30.21, nearly getting sub 130 in another category. Mike was doing attempts on the exact same day, and he ended up getting a 1:29.51 without the Mako glitch. This was carried by the second half of the game, being 26 seconds ahead in Theorem thanks to quickly getting all the skips, and keeping a good lead for the rest of the run. This seemed to be the limit of the category as the community knew it, and given that all of the new glitches were Mako based, people were saying that the only meaningful time save left in NMG was going back to random weapon drops instead of buying from the vendor on Pharos. That's why everyone was extremely grateful when Lufex came in with another discovery, which is one of the biggest skips discovered in recent history. Similar to the Spectre skip, if you interact with the Normandy Galaxy map in the map menu at the same time, you can menu while inside that map. Saving and then loading while backing out of the Galaxy map puts the Normandy into a state where it's half loaded. This can be used to get out of bounds, and by falling into the skybox while docked in Novaria, you can go straight from the Normandy to the Peak 15 garage. This saves at least 5 minutes, making it one of the most impactful skips ever found. Almost immediately, Sanjan and Mike were doing runs, testing the new glitch and seeing how far they could go with it. They both improved their times by a huge amount, with Sanjan getting a 1:25.43 and Mike getting a 1:25.06 on February 7th of 2022. Both of these runs were really good, with them having similar times going into Pharos. and Sanjan was actually ahead of Mike before getting to Wymorn, where Mike ended up having a better endgame to close out his run. The very next day, Sanjan also got a 1:24.08 in the Mako glitch run by using the new Novaria strats. This made the route a bit more appealing since the Mako glitch found on Novaria just a month ago was now obsolete. As of today though, Sanjan's 1:24 is the fastest time achieved with the Mako glitch, which is an impressive feat given how inconsistent the run is. Sanjan kept working on NMG after this, and even though this new skip was just discovered, Sanjan was quickly optimizing the category. On February 11th, she was playing out of her mind.
Yes, sub 125 is done.
1:24.51 was Sanjan's final time, a very strong run overall. She saved time on every split besides Wymorn, and that was only because she went up against her best ever Wymorn time from her previous run. To Sanjan, this record had nearly everything she wanted to accomplish. She met her goal of a 1:24 in the category, and with that, Sanjan can move on. Over the next couple months, Mass Effect 1 would finally see a break from new records after what seemed to be an era of back-to-back discoveries. Lufex did make some improvements to the Novaria skip to make it more consistent, but activity was dwindling. With the removal of yet another section from the run, credits and experience becomes extremely tight. Runners quickly found that they can't afford the Stiletto 4 from the vendor in most of their runs, and RNG drops are the norm again if they want to get a top time. This deterred people from running the category, but someone had a solution. In June, a longtime runner by the name of Alec suggested scanning planets on the way to Pharos to make up for the lost credits and experience. There were 2 planets in the Theseus system that could be scanned, and in theory, it would be enough to buy the Stiletto 4. Mike started doing some NMG attempts after a small reroute and got a run past Novaria pretty quickly. He picked up the 2 planet scans before Pharos and made his way past the Thorian fight. When it came time to hit up Ledra for his Stiletto, Mike could only hope for the best.
Uh-oh, I'm not... Barely, dude.
With only 152 credits to spare, he got the Stiletto 4, and the run was still alive. With the momentum from getting a solid weapon, Mike would finish with a time of 1:24.42, improving the record by 9 seconds. Most of his run was incredible, getting just over 55 seconds ahead at one point, but Ilos gave him a lot of trouble, losing him over 24 seconds on that split alone. Still, this was an excellent time, and it finally looked like the run was reaching its limit. So, of course, 9 days later, Lufex discovered a way to drop from the Theorem skybox into the underground dig site using a wall clip. This skipped the last half of Theorem, saving around 30 seconds or more compared to the normal route. Despite being more free time save, no one would pick up the run at this point. Not much activity in ME1 would happen until August of 2022, when a new runner by the name of CreepyKing started posting in the Discord. He shared that he had a lot of issues trying to get the Spectre skip in runs, as pressing multiple buttons on the same frame can be difficult. His fix was a macro that let him push both buttons at the same time by modifying the bioinput INI file. The community had a lot of discussion around the mod, but overall they agreed that this would be allowed due to the precedent of binding dialogue progression to the mouse wheel. With a new glitch and more consistent Spectre skip, CreepyKing also put a ridiculous amount of work into getting a more consistent experience and money route going. By adding in another planet scan before Novaria and specific enemy kills, it makes up for the lost experience on Theorem and still lets you buy the Stiletto 4. CreepyKing was optimizing the game beyond anyone else at the time, and with him quickly pushing his personal best closer to the record, it was clear he wanted to take the game where it had never been before. In a span of 3 months from August to November, CreepyKing pushed his time down to a 1:22:22, which is where the record stands today. This run is nothing short of insane. Incredible Benezia and Thorian fights, then an amazing Theorem with a clean dig site skip and Krogan Battlemaster fight. He did lose a very small amount of time on Vermeer, but maintained his pace with the Great Ilos, getting a quick elevator skip in Geth Prime fight. His final split with the Citadel and final Saren fights could have gone better, but he only lost 5.5 seconds on that split, which is impressive to say the least. Outside of the 2 points of time loss, there's not much more that can be optimized in the run with its current state. No new major glitches or exploits have been found, and most of the community has moved on from Mass Effect 1 overall. Do you all remember the Mass Effect Trilogy's Legendary Edition? It released back in May of 2021, and didn't get much speedrunning traction because everything was fixed in Mass Effect 1, including crouching. There were some combat improvements, but without any glitches, it wasn't the fastest version. Well, at least until someone found out how to do this. A runner by the name of Eormanric shared that if you go into your armor menu and swap armors repeatedly, you can unload various objects or get on top of places you normally crouch and do the quick save glitch to reach. This allowed most of the major skips in the game to work, just with different methods of execution. Around this time, he also found out how to make the Spectre skip work on LE, using almost the same method as the original version. He also found a way to safely drive over lava in Theorem, saving a bunch of time there too. Before these exploits were discovered, Eormanric had the 80% record with a time of 1:45:29, which only featured a recently discovered way to skip the dig site on Theorem, using the Mako to help you get out of bounds. By the time October 2024 came around, another runner by the name of Finnsane would implement all the new tech, getting a time of 1:20:36 on October 23rd. Outside of the different glitches, the main change from the old ME1 and the new ME1 runs were the weapons usage, and instead of pistols, assault rifles ended up being the best weapons to deal damage. Enemies drop almost instantly in the easiest difficulty, compared to pistols taking a bit longer. Over the next year, between Eormanric's glitch hunting and Finnsane's optimizations, ME's Legendary Edition would progress well beyond the original game's limits. Even more skips that weren't in the original game were being found, including a way to skip the closed gate leading to the Ilos Underground by backing your Mako into the door, letting you teleport through. The same thing can be done with the inner Ilos barrier, saving even more time. The most recent record with all these exploits and more was set on October 21st to 2025, with a time of 1:11:34 by Finnsane. He mentions in his description that this was a great run, and he doesn't think he has the fortitude to grind out a better one than this. Because of the progression of glitches in Legendary Edition, and people moving on to other games, the original Mass Effect 1 speedrun hasn't seen much movement in the last couple years. Still, there's a great history behind the 80% run and discoveries that led to where it is today. Your name here was a pioneer in both the early runs and the out-of-bounds glitches. LettersWords pushed this further by improving the record and finding even more glitches to compound upon your name here's discoveries. The rivalry between Nexus and Lunchy brought the game down with several planet route changes and weapon purchases. Then Mike and Sanjan were at the top of the game, further optimizing the route and treading into untouched waters with the Mako glitch. CreepyKing brought everything together with luck and skill, leaving the run where it is today. Then finally we have Eormanric and Finnsane, who pushed the run further than what anyone thought was possible. If you enjoyed, please go give all the Mass Effect runners I mentioned here a watch. I've left links to all their channels in the description. Plus, a special thank you to everyone I talked to while writing this video. Your insight was extremely valuable and helped me understand the run more than if I did it all by myself. As for you all, stay hydrated folks, and thank you all so much for watching.